The wind knifed across the Montana Valley as the stagecoach lurched to its final halt, wheels crunching through fresh snow. A silence fell over the ranch yard, broken only by the restless shifting of horses and the distant clank of metal from the barn. Clayton Boone stood with his gloved hands shoved into his coat pockets, watching the coach door. He had written the letters, paid the fare, spent nights wondering whether he was making the right decision, and now the moment had arrived, unfolding slowly in front of him like a door creaking open on fate. The driver swung down and pulled the door wide. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a large shadow moved within. A boot appeared first, heavy, scuffed, built for roads far rougher than the civilized towns she'd passed through. The second boot followed, and then she emerged. Helga Sørensen did not simply step out. She unfolded like a tree bending out of a cramped room. The first thing Clayton noticed was her height. The top of her brown wool coat almost reached his chin, and Clayton was tall by most men's reckoning. She was broad in the shoulders, her posture stiff as if she expected the world to shrink away from her at any moment. Long pale hair was braided tight against the cold, a few strands escaping across her cheeks like stray slivers of winter sunlight. Her breath puffed visibly in the air when she spoke. "You are Mr. Boone." The accent was unmistakably Scandinavian, soft around the edges, vowels long and gentle. There was a nervous tremor beneath her words, the sound of someone who had crossed an ocean only to wonder, at the last moment, if she should have turned back. Clayton removed his hat, brushing the snowflakes from its brim. "That's me. Welcome to Boone Ranch, Helga." She gave a small nod and gripped the handle of her canvas bag tighter. The bag was pitifully small for a woman starting a whole new life, just enough for a change of clothes, a comb, and the brittle pieces of hope most mail order brides carried with them like fragile glass. Clayton studied her face for a moment. Not conventionally beautiful by any of the town's gossiping standards, but strong in a way he wasn't sure he'd ever seen in a woman, or in most men. Cheekbones sharp as iced ridges, eyes pale blue like half-melted snow, a jaw that set firm whenever she felt herself shrinking beneath someone's expectations. And she was shrinking now, quietly, subtly, as she waited for him to judge her. To decide whether she was too much woman or not enough. "Long ride?" Clayton asked, trying to cut through the tension. "Very long," she replied. "But it is good to be here." She forced a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Clayton motioned toward the ranch buildings. Smoke twisted from the chimney of the main house. The barn doors stood half open, warm lamplight spilling into the snow like golden breath. A couple of ranch hands paused their work to stare. Clayton shot them a look that sent them straight back to their chores. Helga followed his gaze toward the barn, her brows knitting slightly. Something in her expression changed, curiosity or perhaps unease. "I should tell you something," Clayton began, clearing his throat. "Something I didn't write in any of the letters." Her spine straightened instantly. Many men withheld details when ordering a bride. Some withheld daughters, some withheld debts, some withheld tempers, drinking habits, or darker things still. She clutched her bag tighter. "What kind of something?" she asked cautiously. Clayton exhaled frost and nodded toward the barn. "Best if I show you." She hesitated only a moment, then followed as he led her across the yard. Snow crunched beneath her boots with each surprisingly gentle step. She carried her size with careful awareness, as though trying not to rattle the world. Inside the barn, warmth enveloped them: hay, cedar, dust, and the rich, earthy scent of animals. Lanterns cast soft golden light across the stalls. Horses snorted, shifting in curiosity at the newcomer. But at the far corner of the barn, separated from the rest, stood a stall taller and wider than the others, its wooden slats reinforced with thick iron bars. Helga's breath wavered when she saw the massive stallion inside. He was enormous, larger than any workhorse she had seen in the northern mountains. A towering beast with a coat the color of storm clouds, and a mane heavy as a winter pelt. His muscles bunched and shifted beneath his hide as he paced, nostrils flaring, hooves stamping thunder into the ground. "This," Clayton said quietly, stopping beside the stall, "is Titan." The name suited him. Titan's dark eyes flickered toward Helga with something that was not aggression exactly, but wildness, raw and unbroken. Helga angled her head toward Clayton. "Why do you show me this horse?" Clayton rubbed the back of his neck. "Because, well, I need your help with him." My help? Her brows rose. Mr. Boone, I am not a trainer. I am only a farmer's daughter. You're more than that, he said before he could stop himself. Titan snorted loudly, kicking at the ground. Helga flinched, not out of fear, but surprise. Clayton took a breath. Time to speak the truth. No man on this ranch can handle him, not one. He's the biggest stallion in the territory and the most temperamental. He throws anyone who gets near him. Damn near killed my best wrangler last month. Helga turned slowly toward him, suspicion knitting her features. So why tell this to me? Clayton squared his shoulders, his voice steady. Because I want you to tame him. Her reaction was instant. Her mouth fell open. Her eyebrows shot up. Even the horses in the nearby stalls seemed to freeze. You want me to what? Her voice ricocheted off the rafters, and Titan reared slightly, reacting to the energy. Helga stepped back instinctively, blinking as though she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Clayton lifted his hands. I know it sounds ridiculous, but hear me out. No, she said firmly, shaking her head. This is nonsense. Why would you think I could do such a thing? Because you're not afraid of him, Clayton said quietly. Most people look at Titan and see danger, but you didn't step back. Not once. You looked at him like you understood his size, like you recognized it. Helga swallowed hard, her throat bobbing. She turned back toward the stallion, watching him with an expression Clayton couldn't quite read. Part fear, part fascination, part something deeper. No one, she whispered, has ever said that my size was good for anything. Her voice trembled. She steadied it. I have always been too much, too tall, too strong, too noticeable. Clayton stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough for his words to carry warmth. Maybe that's exactly what Titan needs. Someone who knows what it feels like to be feared for no reason. Helga stared at the stallion for a long moment. Titan snorted softly, pawing at the dirt as if waiting for her answer. Slowly she nodded. I will try, she said, but I make no promises. Clayton smiled, a rare, honest smile that softened the roughness of his face. That's all I ask. The morning sun crept slowly over the Montana ridgeline, spilling silver-blue light across the ranch yard. Frost clung to the fence rails like delicate lace, and each breath from the cattle drifted into the air as white mist. It was the kind of morning when the world felt too quiet, as if holding its breath for something important. Clayton Boone felt that weight as he leaned against the corral fence, arms folded, eyes fixed on the woman standing in the center of the enclosure. Helga Sorensen, his new bride, though it hardly felt real yet, stood, facing the massive stallion that had haunted the ranch for years. Titan paced along the far edge of the corral, muscles rippling beneath his storm-colored coat, ears pinned back in irritation. The ranch hands had gathered at a distance, some pretending to mend fences, others pretending to check harnesses, but all very obviously watching with a mix of morbid curiosity and disbelief. Helga held nothing but a rope in one hand. Not a whip, not a bridle, just a length of braided line and an ache in her chest she couldn't explain. She inhaled deeply. The cold air burned slightly in her lungs. The wind tugged at the hem of her coat. Clayton called to her from the fence. Remember, don't rush him. She nodded slightly, but her attention never left Titan. In the early light, the stallion looked almost mythical, a creature carved from thunder and shadows. But Helga saw something else beneath the fury, fear, a fear she recognized intimately. She approached slowly, her boots sinking into the thin layer of snow that dusted the corral floor. Each step was measured, gentle, the way one might approach a skittish child. Titan snorted hard, tossing his head. He stamped his front hoof, sending a spray of snow into the air. A lesser person might have stepped back. Helga didn't. She continued forward, her voice soft as drifting snow. It's all right, she murmured, accent curling around each word. I am not here to break you. Titan's ears twitched, flickering toward the sound of her voice. Clayton felt a strange tightness in his chest. He had seen men, strong, capable men, try to wrestle control over Titan with brute force. He had seen them thrown, trampled, humiliated. And yet here was this woman, barely arrived from across the ocean, speaking to the horse as if they shared a private language. Helga stopped several feet away from Titan and slowly extended her hand. Not toward his face, not toward his muzzle like so many handlers mistakenly did, but low, toward the shoulder. A non-threatening gesture, a respectful one. Titan blew out a breath, long and uncertain. His massive head angled slightly. "There you are," Helga whispered. "Good." Clayton leaned closer over the fence without realizing it. The ranch hands stopped pretending to work. The stallion shifted his weight. Helga stayed completely still. Her breath was slow, steady, and somehow calming even from a distance. Titan's giant body trembled slightly as though fighting the instinct to flee or lash out. And then, for the first time in years, the stallion stepped toward someone willingly. Clayton swore under his breath. Titan's muzzle brushed the back of Helga's open hand. She didn't move, didn't even blink. The horse's breath hit her skin, warm against the cold morning air. She felt the tremble in him, the unease beneath his strength. "I know," she said softly, switching to her native language for a moment. The foreign words floated across the corral like a lullaby. Titan's ears perked with sharp attention. Helga continued in English. "I know what it is to be bigger than others expect. To frighten people without trying. To be unwanted because of how you look." She exhaled slowly. "I know these things." Titan's head lowered, hesitant, testing. Helga's fingers finally moved, brushing across the stallion's massive neck. His coat was warm, dense, and vibrating with nervous energy. But he didn't pull away. He didn't rear. He didn't lash out. He accepted her touch. Clayton felt his heartbeat thud strangely in his chest. Something about the moment. This enormous, untamed horse submitting to this towering, quiet woman felt almost sacred. Helga stroked Titan's neck slowly, gently. "You are not alone anymore," she murmured. For several minutes, the corral was silent except for the soft sound of the horse's breathing. Clayton approached quietly, still not entirely believing what he was seeing. "How in God's name," he began. Helga didn't look away from Titan. "He is not angry," she said. "He is scared. Big creatures often are." Clayton blinked. "You mean he's been acting out because he's afraid?" Helga nodded. "Back home we had draft horses, large ones, stubborn ones. And the ones that frightened people most were usually the ones who had been handled wrong before, hurt or pressured too much." Titan shifted his weight again, leaning almost imperceptibly into Helga's touch. She didn't smile exactly, but something warm softened her expression. Clayton slid down from the fence, taking a few steps into the corral but stopping well back. Titan flicked an ear toward him but didn't pull away from Helga. "I'll be damned," Clayton whispered. "You've done in minutes what my men couldn't do in 2 years." Helga lowered her hand and stepped back slowly. Titan followed her movement, taking a half step forward as if unwilling to lose the connection. She watched him carefully. "He is testing trust," she said. "I do not think he has trusted anyone for a long time." Clayton exhaled a shaky breath. He wasn't sure when he had started admiring her, but admiration was rising in him like warm water from a spring. "You've got a gift," he said softly. "No," Helga shook her head gently. "I only know how it feels to be feared for your size, and how much kindness matters." Clayton found himself stepping closer without meaning to. Snow crunched beneath his boots. Helga turned slightly toward him, the morning, light-catching. Her pale hair and illuminating, the faint blush across her cheeks from the cold, or maybe from something else. Titan huffed and nudged her shoulder lightly, almost affectionately. Helga smiled at the stallion, the first real smile Clayton had seen on her. "He is not a monster," she said. "He is just misunderstood." Clayton swallowed. His voice was low when he spoke next. "Seems to me you might be too." She looked at him then, really looked. Something in her gaze softened, as though she saw through the layers of caution and loneliness he carried. Something unspoken passed between them, quiet and strange and fragile. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows on the snow. Ranch hands went back to work, murmuring excitedly. Titan stood calmer than any of them had ever witnessed, head lowered, breath even. Helga placed her hand gently on Titan's muzzle. "Tomorrow," she said to Clayton, "I can try the saddle." Clayton felt a slow smile tug at the corner of his mouth. "Tomorrow," he agreed. As Helga stepped out of the corral, Titan whinnied softly as though calling after her. She paused, touched the fence rail, and looked back. Clayton met her eyes. Something shifted in the cold morning air. Something neither of them said aloud. "Not yet, but soon."